Santana win the TNA World Championship. We saw some debuts, some known names, and some unknown names. Definitely intriguing there. So I definitely want to talk about it. Hopefully you guys are all joining us and you guys are able to see that this stream is working. Can you guys just give me a thumbs up in the chat just to verify that you can hear me? That would be really appreciated. And there's just a lot to uncover here, man. As a lifelong TNA fan, you guys hear me tweeting and touting and talking and everything that you can imagine with TNA. There's a lot to unpack and a lot to uncover. And dude, it's a crazy feeling. Honestly, it's a crazy feeling watching TNA live on AMC. There was things that I liked about the show, for sure. I'm not going to lie about that. But I'm struggling. I'm struggling with TNA in a way that I didn't think I would be struggling. But the truth is, I think there is a little bit of a disappointment as well. And I think that's kind of one of the things that bothers me so much. There wasn't something that happened on the show that just made me hate it. But I feel like this kind of reminds me of the Raw on Netflix thing. You know, when Raw debuted on Netflix. You had a lot of excitement. It's a new era for this company. And it just kind of felt like in certain ways they could have done better. And I'm not, not to be fair, they did have the visa issue. For sure they had the visa issue. But I think for me personally, man, there's things I liked about it tonight and there's things I didn't like about TNA tonight. And I just feel like you have to come correct. Like this is, for a lot of people, this is your first time tuning into TNA in years. And I think there was things that TNA did tonight that was good for that, right? Like Cora Jade, Elena Black, Daria Ray, formerly known as Sonya Deville. Those are things that I liked. Like I was genuinely happy to see some of those debuts. But I think there was some things that I saw on the show where I was like, man, you could have just done more. And I don't know if this had something to do with the visa issues. Because not having Steve Macklin or Danny Luna there, that's a big thing. Now, Andrew Baidala, shout out to Andrew. He's watching us live on X. He says, what did they do tonight that says to a first-time viewer, man, I got to see next week? That's my issue. And I say this respectfully because everybody knows how I feel about TNA. Everybody's aware of my relationship with a lot of people in TNA. But at some point, whether it's Carlos Silva, whether it's Len Asper, like whoever it may be, part of me should be paying attention to what people are saying on social media, but listening to the crowd reactions. And I feel like you need to kind of pivot creatively. You have to pivot creatively. Whether that means Delirious and Tommy Dreamer go, or you add somebody new to the mix, something has to be changed. Because Andrew is 100% right. What did they do tonight that says to a first-time viewer, man, I got to see next week? It wasn't the Elegance brand. It wasn't. The Inspiration are leaving TNA. For all we know, they could be bound for AEW, which that's where I'm expecting. I think the thing from me personally, as I watch TNA tonight, and again, I reiterate, this is a long-time fan. I mean, you guys know my ties to this company. I feel like this was a company that didn't shoot on all cylinders. You know? The one thing that made up for it, genuinely speaking, was Mike Santana walking out with the belt. Because had Mike Santana not walk out with that belt, that would have been the most tone-deaf decision that they could have made as a company. At least they got that right. But this is a challenge for TNA, man. This is a challenge for TNA. And I don't know what viewership's looking like, but they made some mistakes tonight that I think for a lot of people who genuinely enjoy wrestling, I should say, I think it could turn away some people. You have people, by the way. You have people. You have people who are disingenuous when they talk about TNA. And a lot of that is wrapped up because of the imaginary wars that exist on social media between all these companies. But perception is reality. So regardless, it doesn't really change the fact that people have this message being spread throughout the social media. So for TNA, there was things that I liked, but the things that I disliked are things that realistically, what I'm trying to say is some of the things that I disliked, I would imagine that fans watching at home probably disliked more. Because I was fine with, the opening tag match. I was fine with the Righteous attacking the Hardys after. I was good with that. We got the debuts. I was good with the debuts. I thought those debuts were great. I can't complain about those debuts. But then we got some weird story segment with Carlos Silva and Dixie Carter. Dixie Carter got booed like crazy, which, by the way, shame on the Texas crowd. I will call it like it is. I'm not a big fan of Dixie Carter's booking decisions and some of the things that she did as an owner of TNA. But the company does not exist today if it wasn't for Dixie Carter. So people who are booing her pretty much don't realize that. But Dixie Carter is the sole reason why TNA is even a company that exists. And we cannot ignore that, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't think you could ignore that. So I did feel as if that was something that should be discussed. I know some people in the chat are saying there was too many commercials. Watching on Access TV versus AMC is different. Access TV is owned by Anthem. AMC is clearly not. James Dolan and AMC and all of those television networks associated with AMC, they got to make money. What's this TV deal worth? $30 million? Something like that, perhaps? They got to make their money back, and commercials are going to be a way to do it. So I'm not too mad about the idea, I guess, when it comes to commercials. I didn't personally have an issue with it. I didn't really notice too many commercials for myself. But maybe it was an issue. I'm open to hearing all suggestions. I'm open to hearing all criticisms. I'm open to hearing what everybody has to say. Quite frankly, I mean, I'm down to have this conversation, but Phil says commercials are going to happen, but no pitcher and pitcher commercial breaks. Well, brother, I don't think that's TNA's choice. I really don't think that's TNA's choice. And you got to think, this is their first episode. Who knows? We don't even know what's going to happen for TNA at this stage. We don't even know. We don't know what the plan is for this company. We don't know. They're not going to be live every week. They might not be expecting 3, 4, 500,000 viewers after this week. They might have a high prediction for tonight's episode, but moving forward, who knows? And I think you have to be considerate of that. It's not TNA entirely making that choice on their own. Wrestling sucks with commercials. But guess what, man? For 31 years that I've been around, I'm used to commercials during a wrestling show. So for me, it's just kind of expected. I don't know what it was particularly about this show that I didn't like. I just genuinely feel like this company needs some sort of change. Some sort of change. Creatively, this company needs a change. This message is for TNA executives and TNA executives only. If you're not a TNA executive, keep scrolling. I have been a TNA fan my entire life. I've never given up on this company, even under when it was on Pursuit, Pop TV, Twitch. It didn't matter. I've followed along this company for a very long time. This company needs a creative change. It needs a creative change. They need to improve creatively. You cannot rely on your WWE partnership forever. You cannot rely on the identity of WWE. You have to rely on your own identity and your own talent. We just saw Jake something leave the company. We saw Ace Austin leave the company. Joe Hendry's out of the company. For all we know, Leon Slater might be next. You have to make a change creatively. This was your debut episode on AMC, and everybody's talking about it. What did you do to make everybody excited about the future of TNA? I love TNA, but they didn't do something that truly made us feel like we need to watch next week. That's a very, very big problem. That's a very big problem. And I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. But the truth is, you get one shot to make an impression. And sometimes, damn, dude, sometimes it just isn't a good impression. And as a TNA fan, I can sit here and be like, yeah, I didn't mind the episode. It was fine. For me, watching 2 hours, that's not a big deal. I didn't feel like I wasted my time watching this. But you have a lot of people who want to see TNA fail. Did this make that impression? Did this change their narrative? I don't believe it did. I don't believe it did. I don't believe they did. I didn't hate this episode. I didn't have an issue with this episode in that manner. I just feel like this show missed something big. Good on them for bringing in Cora Jade. Good on them for bringing in Daria Ray. There's Mr. Elegance. I know some people thought that was horrendous. I personally didn't mind it. I think that was okay. I didn't know who that was. Honestly, I thought it was Bodie Hayward from Chase University. Like, that was my first. I was like, wait, is that Bodie Hayward? Because I think he got fired from WWE like years ago. And then somebody said it in the on Twitter, and then there was some more clarification. That guy was actually from OVW. Andreas something Ziegler or Ziegler. Which, hey, I don't know who he is, so good on them for figuring that out, right? I don't know who he is. I don't watch OVW weekly. I don't keep tabs on that. But hey, good for you. Like, you're bringing in talent. I'm good with that. I like the fact that we saw new faces, because if you guys have been paying attention to any of my content in the last few months, I've been very keen on telling everybody, like, we need to change up the rosters. We need to shaking things up. People need to leave. People need to sign here. People need to switch. So I like the idea that TNA did go after new talent, albeit they may not be the biggest name, but I was okay with that. I was definitely okay with that. But again, everything that we're talking about today, what did it have to do to help TNA get more people viewing next week? And I think the real tell, like, as much as anybody, I think we could all agree, we're going to have to look at those viewership numbers. Will they be made public this week? Will it be made public? Because if it is public, if TNA numbers come out and they did a great number, then let's compare it to next week. They're doing Genesis tomorrow. They had to make some changes to the Genesis card. Again, those visa issues, you know, we'll see how that goes. But this company just lost a lot of talent. I was expecting better. By the way, if you guys want to help support the channel, you can drop a super chat. It guarantees that your questions and stuff will be pulled up on the stream, or you could become a member. I will read them, as always. I'm curious to hear your guys' feedback. I'm curious to hear some of what your guys' takes are, what you liked, what you disliked. I'm all for it. I'm curious, but, you know, definitely consider dropping those. Archie said, I'd put the Knockouts title on Tessa, a female version of Flair. They come to see her but lose, but doesn't. Well, she doesn't really have the momentum on television right now as it stands to beginning to push. Yeah, like honestly, I don't think she has the momentum to carry the brand as the women's champion. I do think there's also a lot of issues in particular with Tessa. Whether we want to admit it or not, I don't think people are really willing to accept her. And I think a massive push right now probably wouldn't be a good thing for TNA. And it's hard, man, because I genuinely love wrestling, and I just feel like overall I've been really positive in the last few months surrounding WWE and AEW and TNA. And again, I'm not mad at tonight's show. I sit there and I wonder, did you really knock it out of the park? Now, by the way, if TNA had Kazarian win and Santana lost, yeah, this whole live stream would be depressing. My content for the next week would be depressing. But I don't think that's the case. They didn't hit a grand slam. They didn't knock it out of the park. I thought it was solid for what it was. And that's kind of why I'm annoyed. I want better than solid. I want excellence. And listen, man, Tommy Dreamer knows better. Delirious knows better. Or maybe they don't. And I say this respectfully. I have a lot of respect for people in this company, man. But damn. What are we, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And there's a plethora of talent on TNA television that should be getting a push. A plethora of talent. I don't think we can ignore Sinner and Saint. At all. Shout out to Myra. What up, Myra? I don't know. There's just, I don't know. Paco, you're annoying as hell, bro. And you've been annoying for like the last 5 years that you've been following me. Your ass is so annoying, bro. The Inspiration dropped their TNA Knockouts tag titles tonight. They it came out after the match that they're actually leaving the company. So the Elegance brand are now tag team champions again. And we're witnessing firsthand that the Inspiration could very well be going to AEW, possibly even WWE. I know Fightful had reported that there was interest from outside. So clearly AEW or WWE. Again, more TNA talent leaving the company. After debuting on AMC, these aren't the kind of things that you want to hear either. Just, be cognizant of that. You don't want to hear these kind of things. We're hearing a lot of this lately, it feels like. So, talent leaving the company, it's hard for them to compete with WWE and AEW money. I get it, but again, you could sign the biggest names or you could develop them, bro. You could develop talent. I don't know if they're going to. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what their expectations are. I don't know what they're going to be doing. TNA is a company that's a lot harder to predict for their future, by the way. It's a lot harder to predict their future. So, and I think a lot of people are talking about the partnership, but it's not. The WWE partnership doesn't hurt TNA. Right now, Moose is having some internet drama with JD from New York, so I'm just seeing that really quick. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Damian Heater, he says, I like the signing of Elena Black to TNA. Yeah. Cora Jade is officially now in TNA as a knockout. That was actually a really cool reveal because it came from Sonya Deville, who also debuted for the company. She now goes by the name of Daria Ray. And she's kind of doing like this whole director authority storyline with Santino. She reveals Cora Jade is now a TNA knockout. Cora Jade was obviously very popular in NXT. She's no stranger to TNA. There was rumors of AEW being incredibly interested in Elena Black. She obviously worked in AEW a couple times before going to NXT. I think this is a very good signing. I think this is again, TNA, we're seeing talent leave the company. They're in a very weird transitional phase right now, but to bring in Cora Jade, for example, is a really good signing. That helps kind of beef up the women's division. Obviously, they have Indy Hartwell. They have Danny Luna, who is absolutely incredible. So I'm expecting TNA to make more moves here, but this is one of those moves where it's just like, it makes sense. It's a good fit. Probably will have some long-term success. And then, of course, there is that NXT partnership. Maybe you can figure that out too, but we'll see, obviously, how WWE chooses to maybe work with Elena Black, maybe not. Who knows? Yeah, I think everybody has the concerns of health for sure. I see that kind of being brought up too in the chat. So, let's see. Did I miss any super chats? Can somebody correct me? I don't know if I missed one. I'm trying to keep up. We have we have 572 people watching live between YouTube and X. So shout out to everybody who is watching us live tonight. I don't typically do live reviews, so it feels really cool. Yesterday and today doing it, feels like the old days of live streaming, which I appreciate. I feel like I've definitely been missing that for sure. Can we talk about Mike Santana? Yeah, let's talk about Mike Santana. Mike Santana won the TNA World Championship against Frankie Kazarian in the main event. TNA live on AMC, which thank God that happened. Because if Mike Santana did not win, there would probably be a lot more people upset about this episode. Quite frankly, Mike Santana winning the belt was the best decision they could have made. And I'm glad they decided to do that. There will be a rematch at Genesis, but Mike Santana needs to kind of captain the ship for TNA. And TNA needs to get a little bit better creatively. They need to freshen up the feuds for the world title. Nothing against Frankie Kazarian, but I feel like that storyline with them going back and forth with the belt, I thought that was pretty bad. So I'm glad that TNA corrected it. They had Mike Santana win. Obviously, this is live on AMC. You're trying to make a big impression. You're trying to get people to watch the following week. Had they not given it to Mike Santana, I think it probably would have ruined it for everybody. So shout out to TNA for figuring that out, but shout out to Mike Santana and Kazarian for also having a nice back and forth match, because I was actually emotionally drawn in. There was a couple times where I thought Frankie Kazarian would win, and I'm glad he didn't. So really good stuff there. Very good stuff there. I'm not even going to shy away from that. What did you guys think about Mike Santana winning the world championship? And also, I am uploading a poll on my YouTube channel. What did you think of TNA live on AMC? Thumbs up, thumbs down. If you guys want to go ahead and vote on that, that'd be appreciated. Definitely curious to see what people say about this show. I'm so curious to see the feedback. I feel like maybe Twitter was a little bit more negative, because most of you guys in the chat don't seem to be like too negative about the show. Even on the chat on X, I don't really feel like a lot of you guys are incredibly negative. I do think people kind of agree with me. I think a lot of you guys probably agree with me. Like, hey, it was a solid show, but it could have been better. They could have done a little bit more. Yeah. I think we can all pretty much, not bad, but was it exciting? Was it really exciting? Was this something that's going to hook people in? I think not. You can't have thumb in the middles, man. When you guys go vote in the poll, it's either thumbs up or thumbs down. If you're voting thumbs down in the poll, that means you're not going to watch TNA. If you're voting thumbs up, like, it is what it is. But I would imagine that people who are voting thumbs down will never watch it again. Great comment from Lobo Wolf. He says, 2 things for the next show that we must be hyped for is the Feast or Fired match and the new member of the system, because Fandango retires Saturday. JDC does retire. He has that match. Against Eddie Edwards, which I'm good for. I'm excited about that. But at the same time, too, if I'm being real honest, who joins the system? If I had to take a guess, it's going to be EC3. I could see it being EC3. But I don't know. Does EC3 join TNA? Does he come in as a singles act? I feel like EC3 would probably want to be, remember Control Your Narrative? I feel like he kind of wants to be the front man for something like that. But who joins the system? I think that's a good question. I think those are things that you have to be pretty cognizant of. By the way, you might not see me looking at the camera. That's because I am on my laptop. I stream off my laptop. So I'm literally looking at the chat and everything here on the screen. So I'm sorry about that if you guys are oddly upset with the fact that I'm just not constantly making eye contact with the webcam, but I'm paying attention. We're multi-streaming on X and YouTube, and it's amazing. So I do appreciate you guys all for tuning in. And then, of course, if you guys want to support the channel, feel free to drop a super chat. It guarantees that your questions and everything gets put in to the stream. Paco. What are we going to do with you, Paco? What are we going to do with you, man? You're a negative Nancy. You're no fun. Shout out to Lobo Wolf, by the way. Appreciate that great comment. The poll results, by the way, are overwhelmingly positive. So it seems like you guys have actually been happy with that, which is great. I mean, I'm glad. Do you guys feel like you're going to watch next week? I know somebody's complaining about production. That's a weird one for me, because I was watching live on AMC and I didn't have any production issues that I saw, that I noticed actually. Is WWE going to buy TNA? I really hope not. But you never know with Anthem. I can't say for a fact if Anthem is gonna sell to WWE. I would hope not. I would think Anthem would be kind of stupid to do so. But TNA is not this money-making machine, bro. People got to remember that too. It's hard. Business is hard. This is a company that, truth be told, man, they need to... I feel like TNA, like, I don't know. I feel like TNA is a project for Anthem to try to sell. I don't see this as a thing where... TNA, Anthem and TNA have like this long-term plan. Like, I could very well see them trying to sell the company, honestly. And I hate to say that, but I would hope not. I would really, really hope not. I don't want to see them sell. And if they sell, I don't want to see them. I don't want to see them sell to WWE. I don't think WWE would keep TNA around. I think they would take the tape library, but I don't think they would run the company and operate it the way I would like to. I think what TNA needs to do is, I think TNA, realistically, I think they just need to make some changes backstage. They don't have Scott D'Amore. They don't have Gail Kim. But some sort of change needs to be made. And I don't feel like it's like a progressively like worse product than before. It just feels like they're on some weird decline creatively to like get things right. You know? Like, who thought about Perez Hilton? Who thought Perez Hilton was like going to bring in viewers? I don't know. But it's a question to ask, because those are business decisions that don't make sense. Perez Hilton, I don't know what relevancy Perez Hilton has in professional wrestling. What relevancy he has outside of professional wrestling. So I was not really good with that. Somebody in the chat said, Ango, you should work at TNA. Hey. If I was running TNA, you guys would see a whole different product. You would see a whole different product. I look at that roster and I know exactly who I'm building around. I know exactly who I'm building around if I look at that roster. And good for this company, man. They figured it out. They got a great TV deal. They're selling tickets. You know? We're getting them clips out, baby. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something there that's frustrating. Ah, fuck. Thanks for reminding me of that Hilton segment. I completely forgot. I didn't forget. To me, that was just not good, man. The segment wasn't even terrible, but like, why is this happening on your first episode of AMC? They did show Conman, Wheezy, and the other girl that does YouTube. Forgot her name. I saw Conman. I saw Wheezy. Yeah, I mean, that was a production error. That was a production error that I thought. They were showing the celebrities and the content creators in the crowd. Yeah, they should have most definitely 1,000,000% not show them where the arena is empty behind them. That was not a good idea, in my opinion. Joe Hendry is wrestling tomorrow. Yeah, he's the replacement for Leon Slater. I'm over Joe Hendry, man. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. The Joe Hendry stuff, to me, what bothers me about Joe Hendry, and I know this is a thing that most people tend to not agree with me on. I'm sick and tired of say his name and he appears. I'm not this kind of dude that loves memes all day, bro. I'm okay with wrestling having comedy. It has to be good, and you can't overdo it. Joe Hendry's the example of a gimmick that's been overdone, and it's been a little bit, at this point, it feels a little abusive with the way it's constantly highlighted across WWE and TNA programming. So, yeah, that corniness ain't for me, bro. True Flight 1142 dropping to $9.99. Only cons were too many commercials, less matches. Honestly, don't really see many issues with the booking like other people are seeing. Yeah, from a booking perspective, and that's what I was talking about earlier. It wasn't like the show was like poorly booked. It's just, did you leave a good lasting impression to make people excited for next week? Which, by the way, we're getting Mustafa Ali and Jeff Hardy next week. We're getting Feast and Fired. Like, those are things that are exciting, but we didn't do anything to properly build for that. And so, luckily for TNA, they have a chance to change the narrative tomorrow with Genesis. Luckily for TNA. You know. Depending on how Genesis goes, it could very well change the perception. What was the thing about commercials? That was interesting to me. I don't know. I mean, I felt like they had a lot of commercials, sure. Yeah, I think, okay, I see you guys in the chat talking about picture in picture. Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you want picture in picture, I think the best thing would be to look at AMC for something like that. Why they didn't do that. But listen, man, it's your first episode. We saw what happened with Raw on Netflix. I'm trying to think of what else. I think for me, the booking issue really was it's kind of it's I feel bad saying it, man, but I feel like the booking issue is really Carlos Silva bringing out Dixie Carter. I wouldn't have done that. I don't know, just too many talking segments, maybe. I think it's a combination of those things. Too many segments, commercials, not a lot of focus on the in-ring action. I can see that being an issue. How they book the matches, I have no problem with. No problem with that. By the way, shout out to True Flight 1142 for the super chat. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. It really does mean a lot. Dixie got a terrible fan reaction. Yeah, I said that earlier. I did. Yeah. Definitely. Not sure why. To be honest with you, Dixie Carter is the reason why TNA truly exists. Without Dixie Carter, trust me, I had a love-hate relationship with Dixie Carter. But the truth is, with the way she books, and some of the business decisions she made, yeah, you can make a lot of arguments about her. But I wouldn't boo her. I like the fact that they had Bully Ray come out and hug her, though, because I think we're all pretty aware of the powerbomb spot that they did before. So, Dixie is considered as one of the worst periods of TNA. Chris McCarty, I will be honest with you, I don't agree with that. I will be very honest with you. I do not agree with that. She was not perfect by any means, but Dixie Carter did some good stuff in TNA. Could have done better for sure, but I'm not going to sit there and bury her. I'm really not. Boris said, why didn't you make a video on the Rascals? Brother, I've made like 5 videos on that. So I know you left that comment and you never actually checked, which is fine. But my videos are now 20 to 30 minutes long in length. And of course, you won't have the patience to sit there and listen. But if you wanted the answer, you would have it. In fact, I'll even spoil the video for you. Good on them for going to AEW. Lobo Wolf says, I'm from Chile and I watch the show on Claro Sports YouTube channel. And during commercials, we have a live wide shot of the ring and watch entrances. Really? So they don't even show you the in-ring action at all? Because that seems like a weird way of doing things too. So you're from Chile. So technically somebody could just use a VPN and go to Claro Sports. Because yeah, in America, it's in America, obviously, we have the AMC network and AMC Plus. Yeah, I see everybody's complaining about the commercials. Man, I'm so used to commercials during watching TV. I'm so used to commercials. I guess I've learned not to really get offended by that shit, to be honest, because I'm just so used to it in professional wrestling. I really am. I'm so used to commercials that it didn't really bother me. But what I will say, that can easily be fixed with picture-in-picture. And hopefully, listen, man, if you guys want change, you got to speak up. AMC, they don't do live sports. This is their first crack at live sports. You got to be somewhat like understanding of the situation, As much as people don't want to admit it, this is not something that they typically do. So just keep that in mind. Definitely got to keep that in mind. But there's always going to be growing pains whenever you do something new too. Oh. Okay, we missed it. Whether this was supposed to air on TV, something happened. Let's see if the autofocus works. Yeah. Something happened with Nick Nemeth. I cannot watch that right now. But they did some stuff after the match with Nick Nemeth, and I think he was trying to cash in or something. Okay. What did I think about AJ Styles in the beginning of the show? I liked it. I liked it. I liked AJ Styles in the beginning of the show, get people hype. I'm okay with that. I don't mind AJ Styles in the beginning of the show because we know they even teased him potentially going after the world championship. So I'm cool with that. You know? But he is. There is no TNA without AJ Styles. You can't sit there and ignore there. You can't ignore that. So try not to ignore that. Now, somebody made a report, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think Fightful maybe, but apparently there was a lot of rewrites in the last 24, 48 hours. Adversity happens, man. If you're TNA, you got to fight through it. I have nothing against Tommy Dreamer. I have nothing against Delirious. But this company, if they really want to succeed, they have to make a change. You got to bring in fresh blood. I'm not talking bring in Vince Russo. I'm not talking about bringing Jim Cornette. I'm not talking about bringing in some old-ass veteran. Bring in somebody from the outside lens. I'm not campaigning for a job, by the way, when I say this. I'm not campaigning for a job. If TNA wanted me to write for them, or if TNA wanted me to work for them, or if TNA wanted me to appear for them, they have my number. So I'm not campaigning for a job when I say this. I think you need to bring somebody from the outside into the creative team. Because if you know that AJ Styles is going to kick the show off with a promo, you should quickly follow up with something immediately after to make people excited. Did TNA do that tonight? I don't think so. Pacing was not that great either. So that is something that you got to keep in mind. Chris McCarty says next week should give us a better perspective to where TNA is headed. Tonight was not horrible, but it felt rushed at the last minute. Yeah, I think... Well, now it's live TV, baby. And they don't own their TV network. This is a different TV partner. They got a boss now they got to satisfy. You got to be off the air when you got to be off the air. Live TV is a bitch. So we'll see how that works. Yeah, man. Well, it's a few minutes until 12, until midnight. I think this is a great way to kind of finalize the live stream. I really enjoyed going live and talking with you guys. Shout out to True Flight 1142 for his awesome super chat. He dropped a $9.99, so shout out to him. We got a lot of wrestling news coming tomorrow. So make sure you guys click subscribe. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, we'll see. Hopefully. Listen, I'm going to be watching TNA next week because I always watch wrestling. You know what I mean? But these companies aren't exempt from criticism. So I appreciate you guys all coming through, stopping by, watching, tuning in, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff, man. If you haven't clicked like on the stream, please, please, please do. If you're on Twitter, X, watching as well, please feel free to click like or repost the stream. It's always appreciated. With that being said, you guys could find me on social media at Ango PW, live every day on YouTube. New videos every single day on YouTube. It's going to be a good weekend for professional wrestling. So make sure you guys stay tuned. With that being said, I will see you guys next time.